I'm pleased to report that we are in the third week or the start of the fourth week of January, and that we are in a position to share with you the provisional numbers for 2016. And the provisional numbers that we have for 2016 is that we've managed the budget in such a manner, notwithstanding all of the difficulties we were confronted with in 2016, and ended up with a provisional surplus of 1.1 million guilders for 2016. Bear in mind that the budget 2016, we had started with reserving 20 million guilders from revenues to be able to pay debts of the past. So in actual fact, we really have a 21.1 million guilders in extra revenues for 2016, 1.1 being reserves, and the 20 million assigned to be able to pay back debts. If you can recall, we started out with a backlog of 190 million guilders in debt in November 2015 when we took office. The way things presently look, that debt will be reduced to 50,800,000 guilders in 2017. All in all, it means that we are really heading in the right direction, and that the people at the ministry, the entire finance department, and members of government deserves appreciation for their full cooperation in tackling those severe problems we were confronted with. There are some risks and there are some problems. TOT has lagged behind in 2016. Approximately 7 million guilders was collected less in TOT than was budgeted. That we have very little control over because it relates to the economy, amongst other things. Of course, and that we don't know yet, but we're gearing up also to deal with that. Namely, the question, is everybody reporting as they should the correct amount in TOT that they have generated? As we stand now, the assumption has to be that we assume good faith and that all of it regards the economy until the contrary can be shown. In that regard, we're also busy in putting a team together that will be knocking on people's doors and verifying, did they pay their TOT, did they pay their wage taxes, did they file properly, are the employees that they have visa, the Minister of Visa, or the Ministry of Visa is actively involved in doing this already, and there's going to be a combination with the tax department as we're setting it up now, that information gathered in the field will be shared with all of the departments, and appropriate action can be taken when discoveries are made that does not meet the rules and the laws. For instance, if you find someone working illegally, that will have a potential in generating an audit. That an audit team then will follow up, because if you not adhering to the rules and the laws and not paying wage taxes, then there'll be other things that you're not doing either. If you have the potential of not meeting what the law requires, it will not be only in one area, but we will assume that there are other areas that you also not living up to the requirements of the law. That team is being put together as we speak, being outlined, and hopefully it will contribute in generating or eliminating cheating, eliminating or identifying situations that should be rectified and get people to be compliant in all areas. Mention should also be made of the following. I've been meeting with management of government-owned companies intensively over the past weeks, and I'm continuing to do so in the weeks coming up. The idea is to set a new path. As you can recall, in the integrity reports that were filed in the past, mention was made that it appears that government-owned companies are government within the governments. And the recommendation is made government has to reassert itself and regain control of what goes on in these government-owned companies. And that is a pledge that we have made, and in that connection, we've been talking quite openly and intensively with government-owned companies. Mention should be made that what has happened in the past is that government-owned companies in planning, in preparing their budgets, starts to think about all the bells and whistles that they would like. And those bells and whistles cost money. And in the end, after they get all the bells and whistles that they would like, they then look and see, well, what's left for dividends for the shareholder. While in actual fact, it should just be the other way around. Namely, they have a duty, since it's a government-owned company, to produce, to manage efficiently, and annually to produce a basic amount of profits which has to be shared with the government. So one of the things we're doing is talking to them about what is a fair return for government. Once that fair return is established, then they're being asked to start reversing the way they thought in the past, namely, not first spend on all the bells and whistles that they want, but think about what share should be allocated to dividends, profits, and then think backwards and take the steps to generate those profits. That's the duty of management. And when those profits are generated, they're then shared, part in dividends and part for investments, and not all the investments they want. And then, as happens quite frequently, at the end of the day, there is no money left over in dividends to pay to government. In that connection, I should also mention the following. We have had a system in the past where, especially as far as the airport is concerned and the harbor is concerned, that they charge, going back for years with the permission of government, a departure fee. And that departure fee is justified by them and saying, well, they've got facilities and people use those facilities and people should pay for those facilities. In that connection, what started with approximately a $5 departure fee at the airport today has mushroomed to $36 per person departure fee. If you think about the fact that 800,000 approximately passengers leave the island annually and multiply that by $36, you could then imagine the astronomical amounts that are generated by these companies only based on a regulation, not based on efforts to produce profits, and through that also comes inefficiencies in the company. And when I look throughout the region, I can't find one country that does not charge a departure tax that goes in the coffers of government. It is the reason why government always lives hands to mouth, because what government should be receiving in income, it is not receiving. It is going primarily to build up the harbor year after year and to build up the airport year after year. But I think the time has come that that be changed. That be changed because it is affecting government's operation. The services that government have to render, it's unable to render. It has to cut, postpone, whilst in the meantime, actual monies that government should be receiving is being retained by these two companies. A departure tax of 10 guilders or 12 guilders, the amount hasn't been established yet. It's the beginning of the stage we are at in dealing with this problem, is a small amount compared to what many other countries charge. Our position is going to be a 10 or 12 guilders departure tax we have to receive for anyone leaving the island, just like any other country. Why should we be different? The argument has come up, well, no, we can't do that because we already charge a departure fee and we can't put 10 guilders on top of that. I says, fine. That's for them to decide in terms of the business they're operating. But in actual fact, they have over 10 guilders or 12 guilders, which they charge. So they're just going to have to either pay it themselves or seek means to be able to generate this 10 or 12 guilders or deduct it from what they're already receiving, which should have been in government hands. Again, this is a process that we've started now, and this is the idea. If we succeed in this path, it's going to require also a law passed by Parliament, so it has to go through the pipeline. But theoretically, if you think about 10 or 12 guilders times 800,000 passengers at the airport, that already would produce approximately 9 million guilders in additional revenue for the government. At the harbor, the same thing. But there you're dealing with 1.7 million in cruise ship passengers. They presently charge approximately $7 per tourist. And I say, yes, they have facilities, and if they use it, they can charge for those facilities. But the government have 10 times more the facilities they have, the roads, the infrastructure in general. So if they have a right to charge that amount, the government have the same right. I think this was a mistake made years ago, and the time has come that we correct it to get back to a normal situation, just as the case is in any other country. One final point. In today's newspaper, today, you will see a blaring headline that states SHCA severely criticizes functioning of Parliament. When you read the article, it really relates to the annual accounts that for many years have been piling up and not being processed the way the law dictates. Annual accounts have been pending since 2012. We came in November 2015. And all of the annual accounts of government have been completed have been submitted and are in the pipeline, including the annual account for 2015 that's presently at the AZNV to go into the pipeline. So in that connection, we've done the work which have not been done for many years in making sure those annual accounts, which is something that you need to be able to refer to and to determine what your financial situation is annually. Bear in mind, but before we came aboard, for the year 2015, there was not even a budget for that year, up to today. The audit chamber correctly have made reports in the past pointing out the deficiency in these annual accounts. And a unqualified statement from the auditors, for years we have not been able to obtain. Why? Because the information carriers of government does not allow the auditors with 100% certainty to be able to declare it's correct. This is not a unique problem to St. Martin. It's a problem that you also find in Curacao and also find in Aruba. It does not make it right because they have the same situation as we do. We have embarked on a path to curb this, to change this. The audit chamber has identified 12 areas that they're insisting upon that we take to be able eventually to get a qualified report from our auditors. It's a system, it's a method that you're not going to get done overnight, but you got to start. And we have started with that process. The blaring headlines in the Today newspaper from SHTA bothers me somewhat, although it speaks of Parliament, but it relates to these annual accounts. If such criticism had been issued 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it might have made a difference. Now that we've embarked on starting with the process, now this headline comes, and as if government is not doing what it's supposed to do. But I can assure you, in this connection, government is doing everything it can, and it's my aim to be able to show that we are doing so and that we will improve the financial basis of the government of St. Martin. You will not find that because 2016 year, which the annual accounts will come out later this year, you will find the same status as previous years with a small improvement. Because 2016, all the time was spent in trying to get a budget approved because 2015 there was no budget. So a lot of energy went into, with the instruction we had, in making certain that we had a balanced budget for 2016. As far as the annual accounts are concerned, it will be the same situation in 2017. But in 2018, given the steps we're taking now to address these points, you will see a marked improvement.
2017 public holiday schedule. Good Friday, Friday, April 14. Easter Sunday, Sunday, April 16. Easter Monday, Monday, April 17. King's Day, Thursday, April 27. Labor Day, Monday, May 1st. Carnival Day, Tuesday, May 2nd. Ascension Day, Thursday, May 25th. Whit Sunday, Sunday, June 4th. Emancipation Day, Saturday, July 1st. Constitution Day, Monday, October 9th. St. Martin's Day, Saturday, November 11th. Christmas Day, Monday, December 25th. Boxing Day, Tuesday, December 26th. And New Year's Day, Monday, January 1st, 2018. The 2017 public holiday schedule can also be viewed on the official website of the Government of St. Martin, www.stmartingov.org.
I'd like to update the general public on a few matters pertaining to the ministry. As stated last week, Wednesday, a meeting was held with the management and staff of the Leonard Connor School in order to update them as to the state of affairs. The staff and management were also given the opportunity to voice their concerns, and many brought forward concerns, especially those based at the Charles Leopold Bell School, which is still partially under construction, at least at the front of the school. Some of the works which needed to be finalized have been discussed with the contractors as a result of these conversations with the teachers and management. And while some have been executed already during this week and the weekend, the major or the last will be finalized or will require at least 15 working days to be completed. The contractors are aiming to have finalized all the work at this location by February 10th of 2017. Also, in relation to the Leonard Connor School, as you all know, they are still dispersed, some, as I mentioned, at the Charles Leopold Bell, some at other schools. And I must again publicly thank them as well as the hosting schools for bearing with us during this period, this interim period, while we try to work out the logistics. The current status as to when the electrical upgrades and AC installations can take place at LCS, I must say that I'm happy to say that they can begin shortly. I won't specify a particular date as we are finalizing between this week how the funding will be executed. However, it has been approved, and as we move forward, we expect that, as the contractors has mentioned, that they expect that it would take 4 to 6 weeks to be completed. So we are looking forward, and we have asked the school management and staff for their patience for the next 4 to 6 weeks, pending the start of it. So let's say 7 weeks maximum, hopefully, before they are reinstated at their location. Also, in news pertaining to schools and actually the community, the Prince William Alexander School project, which had a groundbreaking but had been stalled due to the necessary removal of asbestos from the building before the demolition could take place, is scheduled to take place shortly. And there was a meeting that was held with the president or the council itself, the St. Peter's Community Council, last week. And following that meeting, it was decided to host another public meeting, which will be held on Thursday, January 26th, which is tomorrow, with the Ministry of ROMI, Department of New Projects Development and Planning, the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Division Public Education, and the community at large, within, of course, the St. Peter's area, in order at the Rupert Maynard Center at 7:30 p.m. in order to further inform the residents of the community on the removal, how it will be done, etc., and what precautions are being taken to ensure everyone's safety. So, as again, this meeting will be attended by representatives of the Department of New Projects, Division Public Education, the contractor, Designer's Choice, as well as asbestos specialists, the asbestos removal company, independent consultant engineers, they are the construction management and site supervision company, and the St. Peter's Community Council, who are actually hosting the meeting. So the St. Peter's community is invited to attend this very important updating meeting in order to give them the necessary information. I'd also like to remind the general public, and especially our men, about our conference, or actually man-to-man straight talk, a no-holds-barred conversation, which will be scheduled for this Saturday, January 28th, 2017, from 7 to 9 at the Phillipsburg Cultural Center. The entrance is free. Once again, 2 themes, Manhood 101 and the Role of the Man. I believe it is a great effort of the youth department in collaboration with the innovations team, the project management team, to collaborate also with our organizations in the community to host such an event to empower our young men as part of a trilogy of events. One was already held, which was a very well-attended panel discussion with all youth from the various schools. The Bel Air Community Center was filled to capacity with young men airing their views and bringing their views to the table. And this second event will also be, I believe, a very riveting one for the community. So I look forward to that. There are also 6 more days left until the iStep logo competition deadline, which is on the 31st. So the general public or the students of the primary and secondary schools are reminded to submit their entries before that date. As a ministry, we are currently very occupied with the synchronization of the vision of this government with the year plans of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. And this is happening across the board. But I must say we did start the process a bit earlier, having collaborations and meetings with management. Management, of course, has submitted their draft year plans, which are under revision. And hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we can finalize these plans so that as a ministry, we can move forward in achieving our vision, in moving education, culture, youth, and sports forward, and making a difference for those very important young people within our community. So I know that there were some questions that would be thrown at me as pertains to sports particularly, so I will await those after the presentations have been made.